Hello and welcome to the show, and welcome, more importantly, to the Wayside Chapel, where I'm joined by the Reverend Graham Anson, the Executive Minister here. All right.
That's right, yes.
Now, I first came across this incredible charity when I was filming a show called Filthy Rich and Homeless, a documentary here in Sydney, and was really just blown away by all the work that you guys do, both here in Bondi and in Kings Cross. And I guess the obvious start would be to ask you, what does the Wayside Chapel do? But I've realised from researching that is such a massively broad question, you might just be talking for the rest of this show.
Could be, but
so
yes.
Instead, I'll help you out by stating some facts.
Right.
So, in an average week, the Wayside Chapel provide 482 showers and toiletries, 1,629 low-cost meals, 533 changes of clothes and underwear, and 303 instances of practical help from collecting mail to phone support. So, in a sentence, what does a day look like for you?
It depends on the day, of course, but look, it can involve anything from being with our visitors, like I'll head up to our community services centre on many days. I call bingo on Tuesdays at our community services centre, and then it will usually involve having a meal with a few people, having conversations, chatting with staff, chatting with volunteers. We've got a great pool of volunteers. They're absolutely wonderful people, and our staff as well. It could include meeting with someone who wanted to talk to me about, issues and things that are going on in life that they can't get on top of. Sometimes it'll involve going for a walk and talk with somebody and just, catching up with people. I'm really in a privileged position because a lot of my work is about my work, and I put inverted commas around that because it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time. It's just about meeting people. And I mean that genuinely, like that's the real part of my day-to-day that's the best part, is the meeting people. I can spend time in meetings all day, but not actually meet anybody. So I'm really fortunate. The Wayside Way really encourages you to meet and be met.
Well, they say their vision is love over hate, which I think is
Yes.
such a beautiful way of approaching this. And judging by what you're saying in terms of meeting people, I hear it so often from homeless people that the hardest thing about it, I can say it's the hardest thing, but one of the things they always seems to come up is that as soon as you become homeless, in inverted commas, you effectively become invisible. People ignore you when they walk past you and don't want to communicate, don't want to just sit down and have a chat. And it sounds like you're doing that every day, just giving someone a stage to talk and communicate with someone.
Definitely. We work really hard at it's the meeting that's the most important part of who we are and what we're about. And so, as I say, our vision statement is love over hate, which is, really, I guess, the change we want to see in our sphere of influence. But our mission statement, which is sort of how we see ourselves doing that, is through creating community with no us and them. And that's where the magic is. Like there's this real sense in which we're meeting people where they're at. We have these little mottos, and one of them is we don't see people as problems to be fixed. We see them as people to be met. So. Wow. So in any because you'll know yourself, and I in our culture, in our times, people see you like a lot of your kind of meetings with people are either because you're either being viewed as a customer or a competitor or a client, and if you think about the last time you had a coffee with someone, and you've just got to raise one little problem, and suddenly that's a door open for somebody to be the expert in the conversation and fix things up. And when you're homeless or got mental health issues or whatever, everyone wants to fix you up. Everyone wants to fix you. So that's why Wayside you can use the word charity about us, but I actually think we're much more like a movement.
I was reluctant to use that word, Gellin. I didn't know exactly what
it's much more like a movement because charity kind of says, and look, there's charities and fantastic. And we rely on public donations. Don't get me wrong. Like we need charitable people to do what we do. But what we do is the meeting, like charity kind of it works on this cycle or on this dynamic that says I've got free crap and you need free crap, so you'll come to me for the free crap and I'll give you the free crap, and I'll feel really good about giving you free crap, and you'll always feel like you'll always have that sense in which you're not good enough, because you're always going to need the free stuff, or even if it's So we try really hard not to come from that place. Even our cafes are low cost cafes. There's very few free meals with the Wayside. Now, don't get me wrong, you get great meals. We get a lot of really good food donated, and one of the classic stories going around is two of our visitors the meal cost $2, right? And two of our visitors are having an argument over what tasted better, was it quail or spatchcock?
Yeah.
So the food's great,
yeah.
and I've had got a rack of lamb up there one day for $2. So it's kind of like it's got this real dignity about it, and it's about meeting.
Well, so you've worked in community-based sort of projects there, right? Since the 80s, you've done this for a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've been in Bondi in the Bondi-based Wayside Chapel since 2015.
About 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
So what was it that first drew you to this particular project?
Well, I got asked to come here because there were some things going on with Bondi that just at the time needed a bit of just a different minister in place. So I ended up here. And I always saw myself as being in these kind of placements. I mean, previous to here, I was at Campbelltown, and a lot of my work was in the community there. I mean, I started out as a youth worker in Redfern, running drop-in centres for street kids, and running we had a drop-in centre 3 nights a week doing street work. There's nothing that shocks me, because everything from drugs to breaking up knife fights to sexual abuse through to a whole range of things. And so I've always been drawn to places where, and a lot of my placements have been in settings where people are kind of struggling with life, or they're, and in some cases kind of feeling outside of any sense of deservedness of love or acceptance by the church or God. Like that kind of appeals to me. Like there's a real sense in which I feel like I've got a different message to bring. So Bondi appeals because of what was going on here, like the work that was going on in the community. Some really good work. It's before we became part of Wayside. There already was an op shop and a community services centre which was still doing the same sort of thing, meals, and there's been a bit of a shift in the culture of that place, but ultimately it was doing meals and showers and internet and all and helping people find housing and all those kinds of things, and that's what appeals to me. It's that real sense of just being where I think life's tough.
So almost going towards the trouble, running towards the trouble, the dangerous situations to help out in any way you can. Yeah, it's a very noble approach.
I don't know. Like it's just something. It's something innate in me. Like I've always just had a bit of a sense of being a bit drawn to people. Not again. I've gained so much. Like it's like It's not about. I feel like I've got so much to give. In many ways, it's, if I'm being honest, part of it's because I've got so much to receive.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds trite.
I don't think that is trite at all. I think that's true of almost anyone that does this sort of work. No one is just doing it to do good. Everyone gets a kick out of it, and that is that's no hindrance on their personality.
No.
That's just the circle of it, That's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah.
I think that anyone that has ever heard of Wayside Chapel will know about the cafes and will know about the op shops. And what I like about Wayside is that if that's what you see of it, you're really not even seeing a tenth of it. I heard this beautiful phrase. There's a charity, homeless charity back home called the Mustard Tree, and they talk about not only giving out handouts but giving up hand-ups.
Hand-ups, that's right. Yeah.
So it's about helping people. We're not just trying to help those that are homeless. We're trying to dispel homelessness altogether. By let's get rid of this thing.
Yes.
So there are so many programs here. I could talk about all of them. We do not have days to do this.
No.
But just to give a rough little sort of analysis.
Yeah, and so some of those will be ones based in Kings Cross.
I know, yeah. But we're talking about Wayside as a whole.
No, we're doing really
There's the
stuff.
Wingspan project.
That's in Bondi, yes.
This is the one you're involved with. There's a youth project. There is the disability insurance scheme for helping anyone who's disabled and visits. There's the Aboriginal community one.
Yes.
25% of all visitors to the Wayside Chapel are Aboriginal, so it's giving them empowerment and respect, to sort of space to tell and share their stories. I mean, there are millions here. Yes. It's just incredible, and what I like about it is the fact that, you know, they're all. I think people look at homeless people and think that is just one person, whereas actually, you know, it is as varied a community as any community. If the projects don't work for you, that's fine. Go help out in the cafe. If the cafe didn't help for you, there's the chapel, there's the garden. You know, there's so many different solutions for different types of people.
Yes.
So what have you most enjoyed about working specifically on the project, so the Wingspan project, for example?
Sure. So I mean, the Wingspan project is one that is one where we have referrals of young people, and the hope for them is, or our hope is, that they'll we take at-risk young people and we give them an opportunity to find life. So, I mean, that means different things to different people, but in our case, we're trying to work with them to help them. We support them, we mentor them, we help them find education, but we also employ them. So that's where, if you know about our HAC Cafe, which is, we have 2 low-cost cafes, one in Bondi and one in Kings Cross, but we also have a commercial cafe, a social enterprise cafe, which is the HAC Cafe, which is downstairs here at Roscoe Street. And the idea is that the HAC Cafe runs with the part of its plan, apart from raising money, is also to employ at-risk young people. So we've got young people who have come through our program who now have employment with us. Ideally, and I want to give her a plug, the Grumpy Baker. Yes. We have a partnership with Deb from the Grumpy Baker, Deb and Michael, and they do wonderful things for us. And they, I mean, some of our young people have gone on to work some shifts to work for her. And really, it'll only really be a full success when our young people are moving on into other employment in other places. That's when we know we've got the full success with it. But just some of the stories that come out of it, and the young people that we get to meet, and to work for and alongside, and you know, just to help them find life. And they're looking for it, they want it, and that's a real privilege. You know, to be with people when they're just sort of waking up that life can be a bit different than how I'm doing it right now, and it could be better it could be different in a good way.
It's interesting. So you sort of get referred some young people. Generally, of all the people that do come in through the doors here, how many of them just stumble in because they've heard about it? How many get sent here? And how many are you out on the street sort of picking up and selling this whole idea to?
Oh yeah, sure. It's a real mix. So you've just picked up all the different ways that people find out about it. Yeah. I mean, if you're homeless in Bondi, someone will be telling you about Wayside. So regularly people come by that kind of way of referral. If everything from juvenile justice to you know, through to parole officers, through to even the police, you know, through to other community organisations, they know about Wayside, and they know we're a bit different. They know that they're one of our core values is no judgment. So they just know that they can send their people to us, and they're going to find acceptance. We may not be able always to help them in the way that they need exactly how to be helped, but the starting point will be that there won't be judgment. They'll be able to come as they are, and we'll do what we can always.
One of the things that really jumped out at me when I was researching Wayside, sort of the thing I least expected to read, was the crazy role that gardening is playing in helping the visitors to the Wayside Chapel. Yes. So, and we're not just talking a little bit of gardening for fun here.
No.
The Kings Cross one is 200 square metres, 50 organic fruits, herbs, vegetables, rainwater tanks, solar panels, worm farms, compost systems, and beehives. That's crazy. Yeah, and the Bondi one is a more recent one.
And it's got their most produce of that as well.
Really? Yeah.
And our produce goes to some of the local cafes now, as well as in our own cafe.
And this one in Potts Point, so Billy Kwong.
That's right, Billy Kwong. That's right. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. So what effect have you seen the gardening have on the visitors?
Yeah, look, for some of our visitors, it's just that sometimes no one's ever had any faith in them to kind of even just do gardening. So our gardener, and give him a plug, is John Kingston, a gardener to the stars, and he's just gorgeous. He's just this kind of man who'll give you all the time you need, and will have all this faith in you to let you have a go, and he'll give you enough information so you're having a good go, and enough guidance and enough practical kind of like guidance, you know, like that this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And you get in and do it. Your hands get dirty. And the garden has such a, I mean, he could talk about this so much better than I can, but the garden has such a rejuvenating sense for a lot of our visitors, because, for a lot of them, they just haven't experienced that growing up. It might sound a bit odd, but gardening is something that doesn't cross your mind when you're living on the street.
Yeah, of course.
Or when you're trying to get your next score, or when you're struggling with an addiction, or when you're homeless, or when you're or when your relationships are breaking down, gardening's probably the last thing.
Well, exactly. It's sort of the polar opposite of what you'd envisage normal life to be for someone living on the street. Right? It's a serene, quiet, earthy, something you grow, you put your time and effort into the land, and you reap the rewards.
Exactly.
It's the opposite. It's
exactly. And I think having that, giving our visitors an opportunity to actually care and tend for the earth in that kind of way. For so many of them, it's just the best. I know it's the best part of their week. They'll tell you that themselves. Yeah. It's just that's the part of the week they look forward to, is getting into the garden and making a difference that way. Well,
yeah, you set them a task and they can, see it grow. They can. Yes. I'm sure it's one of the first times they might experience that sense of achievement. Which is harder out in the street.
I mean, only a couple of weeks ago we were harvesting we've got native bees here in Bondi in our garden in Bondi, and we were harvesting the honey from that. And it's just in the crowd around just to have a look at what's going on here. And John got our visitors to get in and do it. And it's just it's just a real hands-on experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it must feel therapeutic or meditative for them as well.
Yes,
because I've seen the gardens that they're just, it's sort of, it feels like you're not in the middle of a city. It feels like this weird little corner of just paradise where everyth's a bit calmer and a bit slower, and you can just get on with it, zone out and do your job.
Like our little garden cafe in Bondi it's transformed the space. The space used to be dark. Our community service centre, actually, when the church first bought it in '93 or whatever, was a brothel.
Really?
It was being used as a brothel, and the church bought it. And
a church bought a brothel.
We did.
This is a story in itself.
It is. And so the backspace used to be where the jacuzzi was, where the clients were being entertained. And so where our garden is kind of got this history to it, where it's just transformed the space. Like it hadn't had a lot of care, I suppose, and it's just transformed the space into like our garden cafe. People walk walk through our building and just get to the back, and you can see your jaws drop and just go, like it's just got such a lovely feeling. It just feels like it's a peaceful place. It's a transformative place, in that you can sit down like you go to a cafe, you get served, but the garden's right there beside you. You're sitting in it, like you're sitting in the garden. It's just beautiful.
And there's a particular focus on indigenous plants as well.
There is, exactly.
Which is great. With so many of the visitors that come here being Aboriginal, I'm sure that's a
exactly.
great way for them to reconnect with that.
Exactly.
So actually, it's described so beautifully on the website. I need to read it out. I wonder if John wrote this. He says, the purpose of the garden is to create a community, teach living skills, practice sustainability, engage with our neighbours, and beautify the space.
That sounds like John.
That must be. I don't know John, but that sounds like John. It just seems to cover every single element, and it's more than a garden. It's teaching you skills that you could use, in the outer world. These are all things you can put in place to succeed. And
you'll hear me say it a few times, but what it really succeeds at is this creating community with no us and them. Yeah. So you don't have to be homeless to be in our garden. Like, we've got a couple of our volunteers are people who just love gardening, and they'll come down, and that's the whole creating community with no us and them. People forming other networks and friendships beyond just your normal kind of like who you normally hang out with. There's this real sense in which we've got the garden is the place where it's a little crucible of that kind of stuff, like where people are gathering together with a focus of gardening, but also meeting.
Yeah. I guess the next thing we have to speak about is the chapel itself.
Right.
So we are sitting in it. I'm with the Reverend. It's called the Wayside Chapel. But I guess the idea of when I hear the word chapel, I think of religion.
Yes.
And obviously religion can be a sensitive subject, particularly when someone who has faith is trying to talk to someone who does not.
Yep.
So I guess for a lot of people, for me in particular, I felt that religion can often be used as a sort of structure to hang on different morals and different life lessons upon it, and actually what religion you believe in is irrelevant. It's just the fact there's a structure in place to help you direct life. You know? How you found it as a reverend, sort of meeting people and discussing religion without trying to put people off or sound too preachy or come across in any way like that.
You're about to find out.
Yeah, go on, give me the sales pitch.
Look, it's interesting because I'm probably one of the most, and a lot of ministers would probably say this, but I'm probably one of the most least religious ministers around. So, for instance, I kind of forgot it was Ash Wednesday this week. If you know what I mean. Like, and there are
all the pancake memes.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. It was about Monday or Tuesday, and there's an expectation in our community that I'll walk around on Wednesday with the ash. So I had to sort of get myself ready for yesterday. Look, religion's been used as a weapon as well. I mean, that's one of the other ways that it's been used, and I guess. I don't know. The key message that we've sort of been carrying for the last 1,000 years, I say to people that the church's industry has been guilt and fear, and we've assumed that's going to produce people who want to turn up at church, and that's what we've been really good at: guilt and fear, guilt and fear, guilt and fear, and somewhere in there we've lost a sense of life. Like, we've lost a sense of like, our message is meant to be about abundant living, but most of the church's message has been about morality and around what are you doing wrong, and in fact we've sort of been the fun police, and I really think that, I mean, from my perspective, I say to people, people often pin me down for, like, when they find out I'm a minister, they want to have an argument about beliefs with me. And I say that, look, we can do this if you like. I'm not much of an arguer when it comes to God. God's big enough and ugly enough to look after himself. I'm not going to argue with you about God. But secondly, I probably don't believe in the same God you don't believe in. Yeah. So, I don't believe in an angry, smiting, vindictive, bipolar, hard to please, unforgiving God. I don't know that God. I used to know that God. But I kind of hit a point a number of years ago where I realised I don't know that God. I don't want to know that God. So my real sense of things is just about trying to carry a message that, actually, I'm not going to quote anything religious in particular. My current favourite Greek philosopher comes from the 1st and 2nd century. Epictetus. Oh,
that's a good name.
Yeah. And my favourite quote of his is just something that goes along the lines of, first know who you want to be, then you'll know what you want to do. So I've just come to the point where, in my own sense of faith and my own sense of what I think God's trying to call me into, is all about compassion, empathy, generosity, gratitude, inclusion, mercy, forgiveness, kindness, patience. If I said love, love's in there somewhere, and then my actions will follow that. Now, I happen to believe that's also like what the key of the Christian message should really be about. I think the other problem too is we've individualised the faith so hard. Like, since the Industrial Revolution in particular, the faith become this real personal kind of. We've lost all sense that it's I mean, I say to people, when Jesus encounters people who come to him because they don't quite know what to do with themselves, or when they've got themselves into a bit of a pickle, he'll always send them back to community. The answer will be found when you find your space and your contribution to the people around you, loving your neighbour, if you like. So that's my kind of, if you like, that's my religion. Like, that's my faith. That's I won't say it too often because I know a lot of people don't kind of get it, or it puts people off. But I'm a fervent, I'm a passionate follower of Jesus. But for me, that's not about morals. That's about making a difference for good in the world. Yeah.
And you have meetings here every Sunday, am I right?
Yeah, every Sunday. Yeah. So we have 2 different services. The morning service is a little bit more traditional. I get to preach as such, and then the afternoon services we do it in a circle and we do it in a round. And the very first week I turned up, my 3 musicians met me at the door, and they said, "Hi, I'm bang bang bang, the 3 names," and they said, "We've all got schizophrenia." And that's my 3 musos.
Oh, wow.
And they are the most gorgeous people you'll ever meet in all your life. And it just makes the whole afternoon service. I love my morning service too. And we're really good at, I say to people, what we're really good at is being loving and compassionate. And as someone described the other day, we're just a come as you are kind of church. You just come as you are, and we'll take you. Like you can leave. You don't have to put on any show. We're not a perfect church. We're not a church for perfect people. We're also not a church that's going to pick out your faults. We're just a church that's going to walk with you and walk with each other. And I'm thankful for that, because I've got my own sort of mess in my life at times that that I'm thankful for them. They've been really good with me in that regard, those kind of regards too. I'm
sure there must have been stories of people who have come here reluctantly when they hear the word church or chapel and experience that for the first time and turn around, or enjoy just being in the community, or enjoy being in a room talking about this sort of stuff. Has there been instances of that? People leaving in a different state to that they enter in?
Yeah, I think you're right, and we're sometimes people come just once or twice, but other times they'll come and stay, and it's not about, for me, it's not like I'm not here to try and run the biggest church in Bondi or Sydney or whatever. I'm just here to be the leader of we're just trying to be genuine, and we're just trying to be true to what we believe the message to be, and that's about love. So that means sometimes you take people however they are. Some people hit us on the worst day of their life, and no judgment. You just become one of us. Yeah.
Well, that's a much easier message to sell as well. I'm not trying to convert you into my religion. I'm just trying to convert you towards acting with love and treating everyone.
Now, again, if you've got anyone who's religious listening to this, they might not like what I'm about to say. Okay. But I'm not one for converting people.
Yeah.
Like I actually really reject that. Convert's what you do when you shift your car from being petrol to LPG. Or, if you are, a conversion is sort of like maybe from Christianity to being Muslim or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's a conversion. But most people, I think most people within them have some, don't get me wrong, I fully accept there's a whole bunch of people who reject all of this. But I think there's this real sense, a lot of people have some sense of there's something bigger than themselves. But they just don't either have the language or the experiences or the sense of self-acceptance, or that they might be accepted to connect, and that's what I see myself more as a connector than a converter. I just see myself as being here to help people find either the language or the experience or to be captured again by something that's bigger than us, that's awesome, that's bigger than us, and really takes delight in us. It is that, I think most people think that God's starting point is this real angry, disappointed, judging kind of place of us all, but in reality, I think the bottom line is God just takes delight in each and every one of us, and kind of weeps with us when we're weeping, or weeps when we're kind of just messing it up. So there are a lot of people who again, I'm not here I don't try and convert anybody to anything. I'll just sit with you and journey with you, and we'll chat about it, and we'll see if we can find some common ground that helps you to connect with what you know in yourself is true, which is that love's the what makes us all sing, and it's it's love that is going to make the difference in our world. Now, love also gets you killed. There's a lot of people rejecting it, like love, like it's a very conditional word for many people.
Yeah.
But love in the way that we're called to live it, is meant to be courageous, and it lives with difference, and it lives with, it lives in the face of hatred and indifference and greed, and it lives in the face of judgment and racism and sexism and all that kind of stuff, and discrimination, like love. When the voice is heard that way, it doesn't. Love is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It's sort of sounding like this is more a church of love than a church of religion. Is sort of the message I'm getting. But I guess the idea of there being something bigger than ourselves and the hope that can bring is so important. Not just to anyone who's homeless. Let's not categorise all homeless people must think that means the world to them. That's everyone, right? Everyone needs that hope and that belief, and religion can provide that. Anything can provide that. But you know, if you can hold on to that as a sort of passionate goal set, you know, then do it, because only good things come from that.
Exactly right. Yeah,
now,
exactly right.
A chapel wouldn't be a chapel without a choir. So tell me, you've got 3 musicians who are schizophrenic. Now tell me about the choir you've started.
Yeah, so we've just started. Last night we launched a pub choir. We did it in our cafe. So when I say a pub choir, I mean that look, it's a blatant rip-off of the pub choir movement. So we're doing it in our cafe downstairs in the HAC Cafe on once a month on a Wednesday night, and you can go to our website to check it out, or our Facebook page to check it out. But we do this thing just simply where you come along. There's no performance. There's no audition. You don't have to be at a particular level to be with us. You just got to want to sing. And so again, in the spirit of creating community with no us and them, you can come along and bring your voice, and we learn one song in harmony. And we do that over the course of the night. What was the song last night? Last night was Cher's Believe. So done in a slower melodic version.
It's my mum's favourite song.
Is it really? Yeah. It was funny because look at it. The musician I've got 2 other musos who are really talented guys, really gifted, and they're the most relaxed and calm choir masters you'll ever meet. It was their first time doing it last night, and we had a ball. We had an absolute ball with the song, but we had an absolute ball with each other, and we were led so well. And so they were really keen on doing this particular song, and it was great. It worked well for us. It just worked really well. We nailed it, and it was. Again, you'll be able to see the footage online.
Oh, you need to send it to her. She needs to see this.
Yeah. You send it to your mum. Let her see it. Yeah.
Oh, my mum, Cher should get a copy. You need to see what she thinks of it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like it was just. I seriously it might sound a bit nutty, but I had one woman say to me today. One of our volunteers said to me, it was one of the best nights of her life. Because I don't think she'd ever been to a choir thing before, singing in harmony, and where there's no performance. We threw the doors open, and all of our area in Bondi heard us. I had another woman, and I kid you not, who's pulled me up on the street, who'd been there last night, who said, every morning I wake up racked in pain, I feel stiff and sore, and I woke up this morning feeling free. Just by, and it doesn't make sense rolling off my lips, but that's her truth. And I'm going to believe her because it was such a good night. Yeah. So if you love singing, check us out. Come along. There's no room for prima donnas really, because you're going to be disappointed with the rest of us. But we come along, we sing, we have a great time, and we're doing it again on April the 8th.
April the 8th. Right.
So normally it'll be the last Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
April the 8th is the next one. Again, you learn harmony, whether you know how to sing harmony or not. You'll learn some harmonies, and
it's the most successful choir ever. It's been going for one night. You've changed 2 people's lives. You've learned a song. You've videoed it. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Christ.
Yes.
Now, looking to the future, in terms of, I've sort of read that the number of homeless people in New South Wales has sort of been on the increase. I know between 2011 and 2016 in particular, it rose. What can we do to try and combat that? Is it a question of movements like Wayside Chapel being better funded, do more than they are doing? How can we fix it? What can we do?
It's a complex problem. It's a complex issue, and it requires a multitude of different responses. There's no doubt about it. Like, there's no one simple fix on any of this. It's taken us 200 and whatever years of white settlement to make this mess in Australia. It's a worldwide phenomena issue. It's growing as the divide between the rich and the poor grows and gets even more, continues to grow. There's going to be much more homelessness. I mean, it's not something that it's not something we're going to be able to turn around tomorrow. And I'm not even really sure that our government, winces I say that because I'm going to start sounding political, but I don't think any of our governments really, I don't think either side of politics really has a great grasp of, or an appetite even, to really fix up some of the real issues that create homelessness. So it's one thing to build houses, but we really need to build communities. It's one thing to put people into housing, but to build a home is a whole other issue. Somewhere where you want to be, and to be, connected in with your neighbours. They're two different things, like one's bricks and mortar and the other one is spirit and will and, that sense of community and contribution and connection. So, so there are, I'm part of the Sydney Alliance, so, we have particular movements around affordable housing, and that's not really a homelessness issue in a sense, but affordable housing is one way, increasing affordable housing, but we've just really got to increase the number of public houses that we have. But if we really want to fix homelessness, we've really got to build communities. So I say to people, we unfortunately, and the mess we've got ourselves into is that we no longer live in a society, we live in an economy. And from government to business, and even interpersonal relationships, what really matters is your commodity worth. What you can buy or how much you can earn is the most important question people ask about you almost, and that's how government works. Like getting to a budget surplus seems to have been the most important thing on anyone's agenda in the last 30 years. No one really ever says how are we seriously going to deal with drugs, homelessness, mental health. We've got a particular scheme in place that seems to be being dismantled in terms of disabilities. We have state government in place that has no appetite at all for pill testing or for drugs are still a criminal issue. Like we don't see it as a social issue. We just see it as we think we're going to stamp it out by putting people in prison. Not going to work. Never going to work. So I think until we don't ever really, I don't think, tackle homelessness seriously until we start seeing each other again as people, as all parts of the same picture, all with a part to play, with a contribution to make, with some value that's more than just what we earn. Now, that's not going to happen tomorrow either. So, I'm not saying there's no answer. I'm just saying it actually takes a big turnaround, though, I think, to really deal with homelessness. It takes a massive turnaround in the direction we're headed.
In terms of individually, the everyman, the general public,
yes,
what are we doing wrong? What is the one mistake we are all making in terms of the way that we approach or communicate, or probably don't communicate with the homeless?
Yes.
And how can we fix that?
Great question. And I think it does start with people like you and I. Just one-on-one, being prepared. You said you started out by saying, you've worked on Filthy Rich and Homeless, and there's a real, I think you'd know from the people who've been on that show, as well as people who are homeless, is you become invisible. You become, like your worth and your value, it becomes zero. Over, like as soon as you hit the street, and that's or you're couch surfing, or you're in a boarding house, or whatever, and you can't get proper care, or and you can't look after yourself in the way you'd like to, or in the way that helps you to feel like you fit in. As soon as that happens to you, then you become subhuman. So it takes people like you and I to restore that. It takes people like you and I to meet people who are homeless, say hello, like to. No, I know that's not always easy. There's a little bit, and I'm not suggesting just if people go willy-nilly and start shaking homeless people by the hand, but I would say that get yourself involved in some way, small way, shape or form, where you get to meet somebody who's homeless, or befriend somebody in a safe place, like that's, find a regular coffee buddy who happens to be homeless, like buy them and yourself a coffee. I always say to people too, it's an important thing not just to do it for, but to do it with. So take the time to be with. Don't just do it for, because for is charity, with is humanity. Like it's got that dignity about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's beautiful way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a real challenge. It's a much harder thing. It's much easier to go in, for anyone who's working and doing okay in life. It's much easier to. I'm guilty of this too. Much easier to reach into your wallet, find $10, fix the problem. Yeah, I'm absolving my guilt by giving you $10 or buying you a coffee. It's much more humane to buy 2 coffees than to sit and have one with somebody.
Yeah, that's a lovely bit of advice.
Yeah.
And now, before we go, last week was Valentine's Day.
Ah, yes.
Now, I got told off not doing enough for my girlfriend, but in my defence, the Wayside Chapel said, we want undies.
Yes.
I've gone and bought some undies.
Right.
I know I'm too late. I know I'm a week late.
No, yeah.
But for what it's worth,
always.
I've got a load of undies.
Yes.
Give them out to whoever you want to. Wayside Chapel. It feels weird to give some pants to a minister.
I know. No, it does a bit. But I will receive them. It's great. Thank you. That's fantastic. Look, we most of our people, like just having clean undies can make your day.
Yeah.
So for a lot of our visitors and for a few of our male visitors, they're going to love this, because just having clean undies can make your day. So thank you so much.
I'm glad pants can make someone's day. That's good.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hamish. Thank
you for sharing with us. You've provided a really nice, sort of calming, wise insight into all of this. And I've loved talking to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Not at all. And get yourself down to Wayside Chapel. Everyone, come support. Do what you. If you're not here, you should be here. Come on down. Come to the choir if you can. April 8th. 8th of April.
8th of April. Yeah.
Come down to that.
Yeah, come to the HAC Cafe. Come and if you're a local, come to the HAC Cafe. Or if you're visiting, that's a helpful thing too.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.